Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Can y'all hear me now? Press ones in the chat if y'all can hear me. Press ones in the chat if y'all can hear me now. Can you hear me now? One in the chat if you can hear me. I apologize. Sorry, y'all. I thought I had everything set up. I apologize. So Please share this podcast because we are going in hard. Okay, we're going in hard. So if somebody can timestamp in the description where the sound actually kicked in, if y'all can do that for me, I'd be a much very very thankful for that. So as we were saying, for those of y'all who haven't been following the news recently. Recently, there was some protest, international protests, that were largely allegedly initiated by Muslims concerning the LGBTQ vote by your very brave, very courageous, buffer class immigrant biscuit. The Muslims. They was doing it. The Muslims were doing it. Okay. The brave Muslim community finally only took them no less than 30 years decided that just under 30 years was just too much of LGBT indoctrination in the schools. Decided after 30 years, it's just too much. It's just too much. Y'all hearing me? So now, we have a situation where the powers that shouldn't be are using these protests as fuel for their own political agendas, as they do. And we've been saying on the Feachaz from day one that number one, that Muslims, they shouldn't be using protests as any type of strategy for anything, because the powers that shouldn't be only move if they are threatened. And there's nothing threatening about a peaceful protest. They moved during the Watts riots because they were threatened. They moved during the Rodney King riots because they were threatened. They moved during the Black Lives Matter protests because they were threatened. Ain't nothing threatening about some peaceful protest. Muslims, as long as I can remember, have been peacefully protesting the occupation in Palestine. I can't think of a single year where a peaceful protest hasn't been organized and initiated by some Muslim somewhere about Palestine. Has that changed the situation in Palestine? No. So why is it that just under 30 years, okay, of solid indoctrination, well, not solid, we can't say solid. We got to say, let's be fair. We have to say that it was subversive indoctrinations in high schools and middle schools were regarding LGBTs and stuff. Why is it that suddenly the same Muslims that brought you Islam means peace after 9/11, and the same Muslims that brought you were Islamophobia and stuff, these folks after 9/11, don't be Islamophobic. These folks, these same people, They brought you this stuff, and all of a sudden, suddenly, by some sort of natural phenomenon somewhere, they decided we've had enough. This is 20 plus years of this indoctrination, and my kids and my grandkids, they went through this, and we got to do something. We've got to do something. We got to do something. I know. We gonna protest. We gonna protest Friday. Not Friday, Friday. We gonna protest. We gonna say no more. I said no more. That's what they did. And nobody want to ask any questions. Nobody want to ask any questions. Let's say, for example, for argument's sake, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu he was alive today. Okay? And he's seeing what's going on. Can you imagine the Prophet sallallahu and the Sahaba talking about 30 years after the fact, mind you, okay? But let's say they did it in the first year. Can you imagine the Prophet ﷺ with some placards and some ticket signs in front of some government building somewhere talking about not our kids? Can you imagine that? How silly would that look? It looked pretty darn silly, correct? It just looked weird. And black folk know all too well about this, because we know very well that you are sending your children to the very same schools of the people that bombed your countries and made you refugees to begin with, so that the children of the refugees, of the people that bombed your countries, that made you refugees, can go learn in the schools of the people that made you refugees. And then make demands of what they can teach in the schools. But nobody want to ask any questions about that. Nobody want to say, maybe there's something else going on here. What do you mean, Bilal? Let me show y'all something. Okay? We were the ones that were saying for 30 solid years. You heard it here first on the Feachaz. Nobody else said this. And only now you're starting to see some of these imams talking about, Muslims, we should actually be our own political entity if we're going to participate in this thing called democracy in the West. Only now. After we've been talking about this since we started. Since we started been talking about this. Now, 30 solid years of Muslims just giving away their votes for liberals. Liberals. Liberals brought you in, Liberals took you in as refugees. Liberals fought for your immigration. There's liberals who did all that, correct? Now your children and your grandchildren, they're fighting for liberals. But now, since the rise of the new LGBT, remind you, it wasn't LGBT before. It was just homosexuals, homosexual rights, gay marriage. That was it. That was a big thing. LGBT, what that did, it caused an amalgamation of all the weirdos, okay, so that they can garner numbers under one entity. And now, if you notice, you hardly hear about the homosexuals and the lesbians anymore. Everybody's a tranny. Everybody's a tranny. Everybody and their mama baba, or whatever, the they, thems, and them. They all trannies and stuff. They're no longer homosexuals. Right? But anyway, I digress. We told y'all from day one, we've been telling y'all, you know, this thing that y'all are saying about Islamophobia stuff, you know, that's a fake thing. It's not a real thing. It's something that Muslims say in the same manner that liberals use homophobia. It's something that Muslims say in order to use it as a tool of whatchamacallit, undermining criticisms against Islam. So when you want to undermine the criticism against homosexuality, what do you say? You say you're homophobic. Homophobe. You're a homophobe. Now the new thing is transphobia. You criticize a tranny, you're a transphobe. Right? So if we criticize Islam, you're a homophobe. And Muslims shouldn't be doing that. That's what I said. We said that if you start making Muslims an ethnic group instead of a religion, the religion of truth, it's going to backfire. Well, guess what? That day has arrived. And it's about to get really real. And how did it arrive? It arrived because of these very same protests. These protests. We said, once you start positioning Islam as a minority group in the West, you are positioning the Muslims themselves as a sort of entity to support either right-leaning politics or left-leaning politics, one or the other. But mostly left-leaning, because that's what y'all been doing for the last better part of 30 years. That's what we said. We said, once you start saying all these things to pacify Zaddy and them, they are going to ask for their invoices. And the day has come for them to ask for their invoices. Instead of being clear about what Islam is, you are looking for allies with the enemies, our enemies, your enemies, and the enemies of Allah himself. You're looking for allies with him. What do you mean, Bilal? I'm about to show y'all. Okay. Let's just go back. Let's go back in time first, shall we? Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon, y'all. Let me just pull this up here. 1 second, y'all. What did I just do? Nope, I don't want that. Okay, look at here. Y'all ready? Y'all ain't ready for this, man. Y'all are so not ready for this. We are the only ones. I know anybody else has been saying this from day one. It's just us. And now the time is here. And once Pandora's box is open, guess what? You're not closing that bad boy again. It's open. Khalas, finished. Done. It's a done deal. Where are we here? National Post. There we go. There we go. Okay, look at here. Y'all ready? Y'all ain't ready. Y'all are so not ready. Okay. This is back in 2017. Okay. We're just going to watch this very short video, shall we? Let's watch it now. One second, y'all. 1 second. I got to do this again. Let's remove this. Remove, yes. Okay. Add. Tell me y'all can hear it. No, I don't think y'all can hear it. 1 second. Let me just rewind it. One second. I know we dusty sometimes, but hey, it's a one-man production team here, okay? So cut me some slack.
You can sit back and relax and find small ways to show your appreciation.
Chance of inclusivity, a much different message than across the street where the Canadian Coalition of Concerned Citizens held a protest against Sri law, globalization, and Motion 103. They called it the Saskatoon March for Freedom, Liberty, and Justice.
Regime of the Nazis and Mussolini. Unlike your generation that supports them, they fought against them.
The group believes Motion 103 is silencing critics of Islam and therefore affecting their freedom of speech, giving...
What did they say? They said the laws are silencing critics of who? Islam, right? Let us continue, shall we? Let us continue. This is a short video. This we can watch.
Reference to Muslims and the first step to the Islamization of Canada.
This law is going to allow the groundwork to allow other MPs to start introducing laws such as Sharia law. It's going to restrict Canadians' freedom of speech. No other religious group in Canada has asked for such unique and vague representation under the law.
M103 was a motion presented in the House of Commons in December that condemns Islamophobia in Canada and all other forms of systemic racism and religious discrimination. The motion asks for the feds to study how racism and religious discrimination can be reduced and collect data on hate crimes. The anti-Islam protest was by far overpopulated by counter-rally protesters across the street who wanted to send the message that Saskatoon doesn't stand for hate.
They're a bunch of white supremacist racists who are trying to mask their being terrible to other human beings behind a facade of free speech.
We're born as human, so why we always forget that we are all human and we run towards our races and religions and we attack towards that and we forget that like we're all the same.
Saturday's big rally of support for the Muslim community showed that the people of Saskatoon strive to be inclusive of all. Jacqueline Wilson, Global News.
Now the whole point is that we got a whole bunch of catchwords here and catchphrases, okay? Inclusivity, white supremacists, this, that, we need to be inclusive. We have to be anti-Islamophobe, blah, 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 blah. Okay? That's the point. That is the point. Okay? But we ain't done. Okay, let's get y'all another one. 1 second, y'all. Let me see. What's this one here? Hold on, we already did this. What's this one? No, we're not going to do that one just yet. 1 second. Let me just put one up here for y'all. Okay. Look at here. We told y'all. You guys are being total biscuits. Total biscuits. Y'all look crazy. Y'all look so crazy right now. Okay, Muslims in several countries, mind you, against desecration of Quran. They protest in several countries against desecration of Quran. You know what this was? This was January 27th of this year. Okay? So international protests, right? Muslim holy book burned last Friday in Copenhagen by far-right activists. Who was burning the Quran? A far-right activist. Far-right activists were burning the Quran, okay? Protests were held Friday in several predominantly Muslim countries to denounce the recent desecration of Islam's holy book by far-right activists in Sweden and Netherlands. Who's protesting this? Other Muslims. The Muslims are protesting this, right? The Muslims who protested the desecration of the Quran just 6 months ago had their children going out on the streets doing this. And the same far-right activists that they were allegedly protesting against. Look at this, y'all. Look at this. Inclusive bigotry. Watch these adorable Muslim children stomp all over the LGBTQ, whatever, pride flag. See, if y'all don't know the game or the rules of the game, maybe you should back up and let us who actually know how this game is played say something every once in a while. Instead of jumping forward and saying that you are standing up for us. You do not represent us. The very same people 6 months ago you are protesting against are the very same people 6 months later you're aligning with. Y'all are all over the place. You're all over the dang place. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. Furthermore, let's look at these protests just for a second. If y'all might recall, because you don't know what you're doing, okay? Especially if y'all in Canada, you really don't know what you're doing, okay? Like really. Do you realize that last year, at the end of last year, there was a massive inquiry regarding who? It was regarding the same alt-right, far-right, right-wing people who brought Canada the trucker convoy. Those of you who followed this investigation and inquiry learned a hell of a lot. Like the trucker convoy was largely funded by people not just outside of Ottawa, not even just people outside of Canada, but from the States itself. Largely funded by people from the States. So much so that these very same people financed large sums of money for the legal case against big figures in the convoy, such as a Mr. Jeremy McKenzie. Those of y'all who don't know who Jeremy McKenzie is, let me just tell you a little about Jeremy McKenzie, okay? Jeremy McKenzie, you know what? Let me just show y'all about Jeremy McKenzie. Can we do that, please? Can we do that, please? Auntie Gary says they won't learn. They'll learn the hard way. Yeah, let them learn the hard way. Us black folk, we've been trying to make alliances with Muslims since Muslims got here as immigrants. And all that they have done is try to get in good with white folks since they got here. They have been playing that white supremacy buffer class game for how long? So much so that when we try to make dawah to our own people, we got to hear from our own people, black folks, that are not Muslims, that, why are you trying to be an Arab? Why are you following that Arab religion? Didn't those Muslims, didn't they have slaves, didn't they promote slavery, all kind of stuff. We got to hear from them. So we trying to keep the brotherhood going. You know what I'm saying? Like this us, right? Did we cause this mess? If you had asked us, we would have told you, and I have told y'all, no way. This is a game. The same way that you are being used by the liberals is the same way you're getting used by the conservatives today. Allah knows how this protest even started. But the similarities between these protests and the trucker convoy are absolutely uncanny the way it started. 6 months ago, the trucker convoy happened. And what were the people saying? The people were saying, these are white supremacists. This has some outside influence, outside money, all kind of stuff, right? And then they had an investigation about it. Y'all don't know this enemy like we know them. You don't know the amount of times that they use darker skinned people to fight their battles for them. They still do it up until this day. Look at Sudan. Look at Ethiopia. They still doing this stuff up until this day. Look in South Africa. Are you kidding me? You expect me to believe that it only took almost 30 years for the Muslims to decide to protest the LGBTQs 7 months after the trucker convoy? And there's no coincidence there? That's what you expect me to believe? Having your children stomp on the LGBTQ's flags and stuff? Your kids are stomping on, and you're taking pictures and everything. So proud. They stomp on the flags, but just 6 months ago, only 6 months ago, y'all was doing this. Y'all was doing this. Muslims' holy book burnt last Friday in Copenhagen for far-right activists. Only 6 months ago, y'all were doing that. And y'all don't see no hypocrisy here at all? If you're going to play the game, you should learn the rules first. Do you know who wasn't at the so-called anti-LGBTQ protests? You know who wasn't there? Jews weren't there. Christians were not. Jews weren't there. Hindus weren't there. You know, all kinds of people were not there. But Muslims got to show up and like, yeah, anti-LGBTQ. And here come the alt-right propaganda machine with mics in front of Muslims talking about, anti-LGBTQ. And what do you think about CRT? Look at the CRT. Yeah, no CRT either, and all that kind of stuff. So now you pivot right, helping white folks again in their wars. Helping white folks again in their fights. Like the buffer class immigrant does. You must be tripping. On what planet? Planet? Oh, which planet would a self-respecting Muslim think it is a good idea to ally with the enemies of Allah against the other enemies of Allah and be not even in control of the situation at all, have zero control over it. Allah teaches in the Quran patience and dawah and calling people to Allah, calling people to Tawheed. You are brave when Zaddy gives you permission to be brave. But if Zaddy don't give you permission to be brave, you wouldn't be doing this. Not at all. Remember 9/11? How many hijabs came off of 9/11? How many beards got cut 9/11? Remember that? Who remembers that? How many thobes gathered dust? 9/11. Who remembers that? Anyway, I digress. Let's look at this Mr. McKenzie. 1 second, y'all. Let me try to find this thing here. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Let's watch this, Jeremy McKenzie. This piece of work right here. 1 second. And why is this guy important? Y'all I'm about to find out in a minute. This is beyond lame, man. This is like crazy. Jeremy McKenzie, people. Look here.
Yeah, my name's Jeremy McKenzie. I'm a Canadian Forces Afghanistan combat veteran. I deployed with 2nd Battalion Royal Canadian Regiment in 2007 to fight these people, actually, to fight Omar Khadr's extended family. They're all participate. They love the Taliban, which he was a member of. And I absolutely detest and abhor the fact that they would even call him such a thing as a child soldier. Calling him a soldier at all is an insult to the Waffen-SS, let alone me. These are not people that wear uniforms. These are not people that obey things like the rules of war or the Geneva Conventions. They use women and children as human shields. They burn people with acid for not reading the right magic books. They're horrendous.
The right magic books he's talking about right now. What right magic book is he talking about? Where are my intelligent brothers and sisters at? What magic book is he talking about right now? This piece of work, Jeremy McKenzie. We're going to get into why this is important in a minute. Do y'all know which magic book he's talking about? Mind you, he left Canada as a soldier. Thank you. He left Canada as a soldier to go fight in Afghanistan, correct? I understand it's your job and everything. It's your job to do that, to go fight in Afghanistan. That's your job. But you signed up for it. Nobody forced you to sign up for that. But listen to what he's saying. He's talking about the Quran right now. Okay?
They're monstrous human beings. They were raping children. They didn't care. They would blow up as many of their own civilians as they would do us.
He's complaining about the Afghanis raping children. This man from Saskatoon of all places, he had nothing to say about the thousands and thousands and thousands of Aboriginal children that done been raped in his province by his priest. Verified. Who remembers last year or the year before the amount of graves, mass graves found in the west coast of Canada of Indian children, Aboriginal children, murdered by his people? This didn't happen no 100 years ago. This is just talking about 40, 50 years ago through residential schools. And he is a soldier. Did he stop any of these rapists in Canada? But he's a soldier, mind you. That his job is to do that. But what's his grievance now? Let's keep watching. Well, let's keep watching. And I'm no lover of the Taliban either. I don't like them that much either. But look at here. If you live in a glass house, you should not throw stones, correct? But we are just getting started. Watch, y'all.
It didn't matter at all. And now Canada is leaving $150 million on the table meant for veterans because, well, we just don't have the time for that. While the government spends more money since 1870 than any other government in Canadian history. And in this environment, no, we just don't have enough money. But we will make Omar Khadr, the Taliban terrorist, a multimillionaire. And we're going to tell everybody that's got a problem with that to leave the building and leave the premises, including me, including other Canadian Forces veterans. And I have to be here to say this because many of the people from my platoon that were killed by Omar Khadr's little club aren't here to say that anymore. They're all dead.
He's complaining because he took a job which requires him to risk his life to go to other people's country, fight them, and some of his friends got killed in that country that he went to, doing their job. But because these white folks broke their own laws in arresting Omar Khadr. Omar Khadr was 15 at the time. They broke their own laws and got caught out. Now he's complaining because he wanted that 100 and whatever million by himself. But I digress. This beautiful gentleman is Jeremy McKenzie. Jeremy McKenzie is the founder of what is known as Diagon. You see this little flag right here? Are y'all seeing it? Let me just stop sharing this. 1 second, y'all. Let me get this thing for y'all. See, we're getting somewhere. Where is it? No. Diagon, where is it? I just had it. Okay, we're going to do Wikipedia. Should we do Wikipedia? No, we're going to do something else. 1 second. Where is it, man? I just had it. Here we go. This is the one. All right, y'all. Give me a minute, okay? Diagon. Okay, Jerry McKenzie, he's the founder of this Diagon movement. Okay? Accelerate, and there's no way, it says Diagon de facto leader Jerry McKenzie. This is going to come to a total S, so let's get it over with. And then you see this flag here, right? You can see the flag. It's a white diagonal line with two black borders on either side. Okay. Do you know what this white line represents? Have y'all even heard of Diagon before? This flag represents this right here. Can y'all see this? 1 second. Let me just get another screen share. 1 second, y'all. White line's cocaine. 1 second. This is so crazy. Okay, so y'all can you see this now, right? This is the white line in the middle. See these two black borders here. That flag represents his vision for North America. Some of y'all might be asking, well, what's this, Bilal? What is this? I never heard of this before. Do you know what this is? This white line, this white diagonal line represents all the provinces and all the states reaching down to Florida, which he wants to make a pure white ethno state. He wants to make all these areas strictly for white people. Everybody else got to go to the black parts. Y'all hearing this? This flag represents this. Y'all get it now, right? So why is it, please tell me why is it that when Muslims, you butter biscuit, buffer class, booty shaking, butt shaking, bum shaking, tap dancing, shucking and jiving, itching and scratching, immigrant Muslims? Why is it that when you go to protest, you decide to make your faces seen to the rest of the world, why is it that you show up like this? Where is it, y'all? 1 second. This is so crazy, man. Why is it y'all show up like this? What is going on here? Look at this. Y'all see this? Y'all see this, right? Take a good look. Take a good look. It only took you almost 30 years to protest. And when you're out there protesting with your hijabs and stuff and abayas, like you can't make this crap up. Like this sound like, even if you wrote this in a movie script, it would get rejected so fast because nobody would believe it. Nobody would believe this crap. No, people would say, no, you lying. That don't sound realistic. It sounds cap. The first time y'all go out for a protest, you're out there sharing the Diagon flag. Can you believe this stuff? See why you need a black grassroots. And the one thing you won't see in these protests, black Muslims. Is it because we are pro LGBT and stuff? No. It's because we know the game. Y'all just got here. You don't know squat. And you are being played left, right, and center, and y'all look so crazy. You look insane. And ironically enough, your big Muslim lobby groups, NCCM, MAC. Notice how quiet they are about this stuff now. Why? Because they are purely liberal. Now they're seeing the Muslims pushing back, taking some right-wing pointers. They can't say anything because they put themselves in that situation. Ain't nobody told you to side with the liberals. Why didn't you side with the Muslims? You should have made an Islamic lobby group, not a lobby group for liberals, or a lobby group on behalf of liberals by Muslims. How did that make sense? You give up all your power and your leverage now. So now you can't say anything. This looks crazy. This looks nuts. Look at this. Look at this, y'all. And by the way, even this person, this Twitter person, right? She's a crazy person herself. She's a nut job from the LGBTs and stuff. And even she like, what y'all doing? Even she like that. Look at this. Look, here's our boy again, Jeremy McKenzie. Look what he got to say. Let's hear what he got to say.
To mass immigrate into your home.
Listen to this piece of work.
1942 Germans or present-day Muslims is a safe, appropriate demographic to mass immigrate into your home where your children live.
That guy who invented this flag is saying this about Muslims. And here come the Muslims. Well done, bravo. Bravo. If this is like some incredibly embarrassing crap. It's like embarrassing, man. But I digress. I totally digress. The question is, black folk, do y'all see what we've been saying now? Y'all see it now? Look who these folks would align themselves with for the biscuit. They really do not care. They are very quick to sell out. So fast. They were selling out when liberals were talking about inclusion and being inclusive and Islamophobia and, allyship. They were selling out then and they're selling out now. Can you imagine how this guy?
You think 1942 Germans or present-day Muslims is a safe, appropriate demographic to mass immigrate into your home where your children live?
The leader of this group who made this flag shared by this people is now shared by those Muslims.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
There's some serious madness. Insane madness. And we don't have to stop there. Like there's so much going wrong with these protests, bro. Like, man, I had so much stuff on these protests, man. It's just ridiculous. Who told y'all this was a good idea? And I want to know the origin of these tweets and these WhatsApp messages, anyways, organizing these protests, because that is from the very same playbook that brought you the Arab Spring, that brought you the trucker convoy and now the same playbook. There's no difference between that playbook and these Muslims now doing the work of white supremacists. They're doing the work now because the white supremacists can't come out and protest the LGBTQs. There's too much heat on them. Too much heat. They can't do it now. You understand? They've just been had this investigation. But who do we know that love us more than we love us? Oh, I know. It's got to be the Muslim refugee. We know they love us. They loves us. We know that. They love them some Zaddy. $400,000 South Asians fought for the British on behalf of the British Muslims to topple the Ottoman Empire, just for these same South Asians to turn around and say, Muhammad what have you? These folks, okay? The same folks that brought you, whatchamacallit, the Qadianis and stuff. The same folks that brought you the Brailleys and stuff. Them folks. I know. Let's help them get over on the LGBTQs too. What could possibly go wrong? What could go wrong? And here's the thing about Canada. Do any of y'all know the second largest ethnic group in Canada, who they are? Ethnic group. What's the second largest ethnic group in Canada? Does anybody know? I believe it's the same in Britain as well. Sikhs is a religion, but you're close. Sikhs is a religion. We're talking about ethnic group. Yes, it's Indians, South Asians. They're the second largest. And the same issues that are facing United States right now, that's facing Britain right now, is also happening in Canada, where white people will soon be a minority in the countries they conquered and they colonized. So what they did in the early 1900s and the late 1800s is, pardon me, is the same thing they're doing now. Same thing. If y'all recall, we're the ones that told y'all that black folk used to be the majority in the United States. They used to be. Okay? And then you had the Civil War. And of course, white folks got scared because now all of these trained black soldiers got guns now. They started making gun laws in the States. Gun control was about black people. It's always been about black people. Okay? They made it illegal for blacks to have guns and tools, mind you. It was illegal. And then through the Homestead Act, they started inviting as many so-called white people to the West as possible. People who they didn't even like in Europe. They started inviting them to become white. And not just white folks. Here. You think I'm capping? It wasn't just white folks. They invited all kinds of people to be white in order specifically to suppress the population of black folks. I'm reading from this book right here. What does that book say? It says, Engaging Muslim Students in Public Schools, What Educators Need to Understand, by Brother Michael Abraham. Okay? Racial classification of Arabs and South Asians. Okay? Syrians at that time, which time? Early 1900s, argued vigorously in courts, the press, and society in general that their ethnic stock originated from what? Caucasians! Syrians argued that, okay? Caucasian Semitics, and therefore they were white, right? What's the source? Arab American Institute, 1997. South Asians have been classed as Hindus from 1920 to 1940, and then later as white. With the reformation of immigration laws in the 1950s until being classed as Asian under racial categories used today by the federal government for census, which were essentially established in 1978. And now you find these very same Muslims, these South Asians and these Arabs. Who are they siding with? In 2023? Who are they siding with? Look who they siding with. Y'all cannot make this stuff up, man. This is so crazy. So black folk, if other people groups are working for their best interests at your detriment, and they really don't care. They really don't care. They're okay with telling you that CRT is irreligious, and they're okay with telling you to take a back seat and whatnot. And, you know, why can't y'all? People just got here yesterday. Look, we got our bag. Where's your bag? You've been here so long, children of slaves. Why can't y'all do it? Want to wag their finger in your face. And here, they've been classified specifically and positioned in order to make sure that they are a buffer class between you and the bag. And now they're coming out here holding up white supremacist flags and stuff. Right? What should y'all be doing? Reactionary.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum, the Feachaz. How are you?
Walaikum salam. What you got for me?
Yeah, I just wanted to learn more about the issue. So, what was the protest about, the LGBT in schools?
Yeah, they had Pride Month here, right? So these folks, they decided that it was a good idea to protest, and of course, it was done mostly through social media, just like the trucker convoy, exactly. And nobody had any questions to ask. They just kind of joined in the protest, and now they position themselves for white supremacists now to come out and say, well, if we are white supremacists, what do you call this? Typical buffer class. Typical. Just as buffer classes do.
Yeah. So who were they protesting at? Who was the protest aimed at?
The schools.
Was that in Canada or America?
Both.
Okay. And so these people turned up and supported the protest?
Which people?
The diagonal people.
Supported the protest. I'm not sure if they're supporters or if they're provocateurs. The way that I see it is that they probably instigated the whole thing, and that's how I see it. Because I've been living in Canada my entire life, and not once have I ever seen Muslims ever galvanize themselves to protest the LGBT. Never, never. Right? But all of a sudden, you know, just a few months after the truck and convoy investigation, now they're protesting. This is something that the truck and convoy people do. You already shown that. This is something that's their MO. Their MO is to these type of things. You get me? Muslims historically, the only thing they in Syria here and there. Are we back?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, Muslims now put themselves in quite the situation because they themselves intentionally made themselves pawns in this left-right paradigm. They did it on purpose too. Like, who does that? The only other people group that do that are the Hispanics, right? When they come over from other countries, they always get involved in the left-right paradigm, and that's the only other people I group that see doing it en masse, right? But Muslims, even though Hispanics, they essentially always vote for themselves. Muslims vote for the parties, and they've always historically, just like Black folk, they always historically voted liberal, always, right?
Do you think Muslims should have their own party?
No, I think they should be in. Not necessarily have their own party in terms of the federal level. That doesn't make any sense to me. You're in a democratic society. Pardon me. In a democratic society, it's a numbers game. It's either the number of votes or of how much money you got. That's it. Whoever has the most money or the most votes gets to have things done, right? And in the States, the system is a little bit different because in the States they gerrymander, so they can basically cut you out of your constituency by making up imaginary borders, right? So, but in Canada, there's no gerrymandering. Either way, whether you're in the States or in Canada, you have to be on a local level because these countries themselves, when you're talking about on the federal level, you're not going to make any changes until you're ready to, get that numbers on the federal level, right? So Muslims, what they should be doing, and same thing for Black people, I always say it, is that you need to have your own people either do one or two things. You're going to raise somebody up from the bottom, right, from your own people, and put them, always vote them into your local politics and make sure they always have the power within your own constituency. Or you're going to come together as an entire lobby, as an entire group, and you are going to buy the politicians like everybody else does. You buy the politicians and you tell them you're going to do A, B, and C, and D, and if you don't, you're not going to be in power next year. And it's as simple as that. These Muslims out here protesting with white supremacist flags. Like, what y'all doing? What is this going to do?
I don't see why having a Muslim party is a bad idea.
You can do it if you want, but you're in a democratic society. Who's going to vote for the Muslim party?
Well, you never know. You might win one seat, right?
And what would that do? That one seat?
It gives people a chance to see Islam in the spotlight, in the public eye.
People already
even not, yeah, but it's always presented. The public eye, yeah, the public image of Islam is always presented by non-Muslims.
Well, look at this here. Look at here. Let me show you something. You see that? That is Muslims in the public eye. And they are doing that because Zaddy told them that's what you're supposed to be doing.
You have Muslims voting either for one party or the other, either for the conservatives or the liberals. They end up always being treacherous to what they promise anyway, right? Having a Muslim party allows Muslims to have a group they can all vote for. And
this one, where first of all, democracy in itself, right, is un-Islamic, right? It's democracy.
Why is it un-Islamic?
The whole origins of democracy in itself is not Islamic. It's like kufr, right?
That makes no sense.
Having one man, one vote. This is a kufri system. We don't believe in.
Who told you that? Who told you that it's kufr?
You believe in one vote in Islam?
What's wrong with democracy? What's wrong with having people to represent you?
Okay, so you believe in one man, one vote, right?
What does that mean? One man, one vote.
This is democracy.
No,
right?
What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
You're talking about democracy. That means your vote is the same as the Satanist vote, is the same as the tranny's vote, is the same as the serial killers. They're all the same. There's no difference between your vote and their vote. That's democracy.
Well, that's how do you? How was Medina established?
Again?
Okay, how would Islam ever get established unless people want it?
Not by democracy. Are you kidding me? That's a joke.
How
are you going to establish Islam democratically? Did the Prophet ﷺ ever sit down with the mushrikeen of Mecca and say, you know what, mushrikeen of Mecca, let's have a vote. Let's vote on who's right and who's wrong.
Okay, how was Medina established?
That has never been how it's done.
How was Medina established?
By democracy. The people voted for the Prophet ﷺ. Is that how it happened?
The people who ran Medina, they chose the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ.
They didn't choose the Prophet ﷺ. The people of Medina believed in the Prophet ﷺ because of his dawah. And when the people of Medina, when the Jews of Medina were treacherous to the Prophet ﷺ, did he say, let's have a democratic process about your treachery? Or did he fight them?
No, look, I think you're mixing things up here, right?
I'm mixing things up.
Yeah, you're not listening. You don't listen.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so even in a one man, one vote idea that you keep talking about, you're obfuscating of how things work. You vote for a representative. Now, the people who chose to bring Muhammad ﷺ as their leader in Medina, it was the representatives of their people, the leaders of the tribes, etc. They're the ones. If the people aren't happy with their leader, they'll replace them with someone else. That's just like democracy. What's the difference? People need to consent as to who rules them.
There was no democracy in Medina. The people did not consent to their leaders.
Then how did they have leaders?
The people who were leaders at that time, they were much like the aristocrats and the landowners of the past. So they owned stuff. Therefore, they were the leaders.
No, they had tribes.
That's how it's always been. Democracy, democracy in itself, as a as a political system, is something very new, and started mostly in the late 1800s. But before that, right, when you're allegedly from Britain anyways, right? Right? You're king, right? Who voted your king to be king?
Well, there's some history to that because we had Oliver Cromwell. Right.
Now there's history. Now there's history. Okay, anyways.
Well, you asked me a question. I was answering it. That's all.
Okay, all right.
It's not that now there was history. But, okay, you're saying that democracy is kufr. To me, democracy is just a tool for governing a society. That's all. It's a tool.
The system itself.
It's an agnostic tool, right?
Itself is kufri. Of course it is.
How can it be a kufri system? I don't understand it.
Because now what you are saying,
it's like saying a motor car is kufr.
Now what you are saying, saying is that the people you're allegedly giving power to everybody. So the majority rules. So if the majority of people now say, like what happened in Quebec recently, that you cannot wear hijab in schools, that becomes the law now. And that really happened in Quebec.
Yeah, okay.
When the people
don't want it.
Yeah. So is this kufr or not?
Well, not really. It's just democracy is the means. No,
it's not kufri. Okay.
You're saying that the system, a tool, is kufri. Spectacles, are they kufr?
What are you talking about?
A tool cannot be cannot be classed as a kufri system. How a tool is used can be used in a kufri way, yes, but the tool itself is not kufr. Let's say you have a Muslim society, a Muslim constitution, but you choose to run it democratically. How is that kufr?
Let's say I agree with you, okay? Let's say I agree with you. The way that the tool that you say is not kufri because it's a tool, right? How is it used in Quebec?
Well, it's the majority of the people there are non-Muslims.
So what difference does it make? I'm saying that the tool itself, right? And that the fact that Muslims accept this, and there's no place in Islam for it to say that, yes, democracy, yes, we are going to vote and all this kind of stuff, right? The tool itself is kufri. The majority of the people, right, throughout history will always choose their hawa over guidance. So now if you give the power to the people to say, yes, we want this, yes, we want that, you're doing two things, right? You're allowing people who actually have the resources to propagate whatever they want to the people to gain power through manipulation of resources, right? And this has always been done.
You see what I think what you described is slightly inaccurate. People don't. It's not like every individual is voting to say that hijab is banned. What people vote for is representatives. So it's a very few number of people who will represent the people on the stage of legislation. Okay?
Is democracy Islamic?
It's neither Islamic or un-Islamic. It's mubah.
You say it's the mubah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see how a tool can be a kufr.
I didn't say it's kufr. I didn't say if you go and vote, it's kufr. That's not what I said. I said democracy as a system in of itself.
Yeah.
Right.
So you had
what Muslims are doing, right? They're not coming here and participating in democracy in order to make a Muslim country. That's not how they're using it. They're coming here and participating in democracy and to empower Kafir parties.
Yeah,
that's
so
how
that's one thing I don't agree with. Okay, now that's why I suggested to you Muslims should form their own party to establish Islam. And you're saying that's not acceptable. That's a bad thing.
I never said that's not acceptable. I'm saying that you're going to do this in a democratic society. At what end? Because in a democratic society, the majority rules. If you are serious about making any non-Muslim country a Muslim country, then you should be doing what? You should be doing two things. You should be learning about Islam and making dawah. As simple as that. This was the method of every prophet before us. This was the method of the Sahaba. Bro, and they were the most successful at turning people. I
need to respond to that comment, that statement you just made.
Okay, go ahead.
Typical Saudi nonsense. It's rubbish. Yeah. No. And I'm not trying to be rude or insulting. I'm trying to show you the argument is BS. To say that to get a job, you need to just do ibadah and increase your ilm. Right? Increase your ilm and do ibadah.
We're not talking about getting a job.
It's the same concept. It's the same concept. If you want to change the society and establish Islam, just make dua and seek knowledge. No, you need a plan of action. You need to make moves. You can't just sit on your butt. Read the hadith and Allah is going to give it to you. You have to take action, but you need a plan.
When I say seek knowledge and make da'wah, that's not taking out action.
Don't you need a leader?
When I say seek knowledge and make da'wah, is that not taking action?
Not really. Not appropriate action. Not sufficient action to achieve the goal we're talking about. No, it's not suitable.
Putting yourself in democracy is a quicker way to turn a non-Muslim country into a Muslim country, correct?
It is a good option, yeah. If you're allowed to give people Islam as a choice, why not give it to them?
Right? You're telling us, in front of all these people, right? Involving yourself in democracy is
Again,
more.
You keep saying you don't believe democracy is what? Is democracy kufr? Yes or no?
Democracy itself, the system itself is kufr. It is kufr. No doubt.
Sense. I just asked you, prove that it's kufr, and you haven't done so.
In
You're
Islam,
just repeating what people say that democracy is kufr. All right, why is it kufr?
In Islam,
yeah.
Do we have one man, one vote system? Yes or no?
Why not? Why don't we have?
So the Hindu, right, and the Sikh, and the LGBT, and the prostitute, and the crackhead, and the whoever else all get the same vote as a Muslim, right? But that's not kufri.
What do they vote for?
What does
one man, one vote? I'm explaining to you because I just explained something. You've ignored it. I've already answered this question.
I gave you a very clear example that happened in Quebec, and then you turned around and said, well, these are non-Muslims.
No,
right?
Because
thanks for coming on.
Are you going to cut me off like that because you're afraid?
Because the people are complaining in the comments.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Your viewers are dumb. That's why.
Okay, no problem, bro. No problem.
You can't handle the argument. You have to end the conversation.
There's no arguments.
Because you don't listen. You just talk.
Okay, no problem. I'm listening. Go ahead. I've listened to you call me.
You keep saying.
You said
you're over talking me. Look.
Nonsense, right? That's what you said. You said that
he's not listening.
The democratic process is a quicker way to make a non-Muslim country a Muslim country than actually learning the Quran and Sunnah and calling to it. You said that, not me.
Are you going to listen to my response?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. You keep presenting this straw man of one man, one vote. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when people have one vote for one man, what do they vote for? They don't vote for a specific agenda. They vote for individuals to represent them.
What is this?
Look, he's not listening.
What?
He just cut me off.
I believe you just said that.
They vote for representatives.
You cannot be serious right now.
When you vote, right, you have to vote for a representative. You go to the voting booth and you choose somebody to vote for. You don't vote for a topic.
What?
When you go to the voting booth, you do not vote for banning the hijab. That's not an option in the voting booth.
Reactionary seriously said that when you go vote, you don't vote for an agenda.
Exactly.
That's what he said.
When you go to the voting booth, is there an option for the hijab?
He said that while watching the picture that we put up right now. Look at the picture that we put up.
It's not addressing the point.
Look at the picture that we put up. What are these Muslims apparently fighting? Reactionary. What is
Listen, answer the question. When you go to vote,
what are they fighting?
Why don't you answer the question?
What are they fighting?
You're being dishonest now. Why don't you answer the question?
I'm being honest. I didn't change. Did I change your words? You said that people don't vote for agendas. So when people are voting liberal, they're not voting for a liberal agenda like LGBT. They're not voting for.
Okay, let me explain to you. When you go into the voting booth, have you ever voted?
Immigration rights.
Have you ever voted?
And when people are voting for Donald Trump, they're not voting for anti-immigration.
Have you ever voted?
Yes, I have actually. Yes.
Okay. When you went into the voting booth, what did you have to do to vote? What was the actual mechanism? What did you do to vote?
All right, reactionary. Thank you so much. We got to bring other people on. Is that okay? All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Anti-gravity.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother. How are you?
Good. How you doing, bro?
Good. Sorry, I forgot what I came on here to ask in the first place. the discussion kind of went off track.
Man, I don't know, man. But I don't know. At least he brings some conversation. He brings some good conversation every once in a while. But man, that was some crazy stuff. When you vote for an agenda, like what? What is you talking about?
It's like the brothers is just a little misguided on the topic.
Yeah, man.
The part I think starting to remember a little bit. I wanted to comment on is: do you know why that this diagonal line has that particular area? Did they give you any information?
Yeah, it's because
random area.
Yeah, they want that diagonal line, as I mentioned.
No, I know it wants to be a white ethno state, but just that particular is not the best land in the country per se, at least in the U.S.
Why you chose that? I don't know. I think I don't. Man, it's difficult to get into the mind of a devil. You know what I mean? Seriously, the way that they think is not like how other people think. You get me? Like who thinks? You know what? We got to get rid of these people off this land. How are we going to do it? I know. We're going to kill all the buffalo because that's what they eat. Let's starve them out. You know what I mean? Normal people can't think like that. It takes a special type of demon to think stuff like this. We got to get rid of all these Indians. But we're going to waste too much bullets. How are we going to do that? Oh, I know. We're gonna give them blankets as gifts and infect them with smallpox.
Right.
So if you know anything about Canadian history, John A. Macdonald, when he was putting the CN rail together, right? He's the first Prime Minister of Canada. When he was organizing this thing, he was the 1950 Highway Act before the 1950 Highway Act. Okay,
right.
Like before 1950 Highway Act, it was John A. Macdonald. What was the purpose of this highway now? Right, the railway is twofold: to connect East and West Canada together, and to steamroll Indigenous lands.
Yes.
You understand? To steamroll Indigenous lands. He himself said that, Canada is meant for the Aryan people.
Wow.
You get me? He said that. Mm-hmm. So when they do stuff like this, like, how can we get into the mind of somebody that's that demonic? And furthermore, what makes it worse is women with hijab and stuff.
Yeah, that kind of naivety is crazy.
Yeah.
To be in this picture.
You know what I'm saying? Like how? How does that happen?
Yeah,
How
just
does
picking up any kind of flag. I mean, you got to know what flag you're picking up.
yeah,
I don't know. You know, if this was a Canadian flag, okay, I can understand. They're in Canada. They want to fly a Canadian flag. They don't want to fly the LGBT flag. Fine, but a random flag that they have no idea what it is.
yeah. But this is what the Muslims are doing because
Is it
Muslims
really?
move when white folks tell them they're okay to move. That's it. When white folks say, "Okay, y'all can move now," we can move. What? We can move? Bring the samosas. That's when they move.
Right, 100%. And honestly, the actually, I remember now why I called it. The biggest thing is a lot of these stuff that these non-Black Muslims are doing is really making it hard to make da'wah to other people, especially other Black people. Because the first thing they're gonna say is, "Hey, look at these people. They're racist. They believe that Arabs are superior." I mean, and I've seen some Muslims posting that, like, they post Ibn Tirmidhi said blah 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 about Arabs being the superior culture of all. So of course they're gonna say, "Hey, okay, your God believes that these group of people are better than us. Why would we join you guys?"
Exactly.
Exactly.
But the thing is,
100 million times harder.
yeah, the thing is, they really don't care. They really do not care, right? And they're very happy when other imams say that they're superior.
Yeah.
And they're very happy to spread that. You get me? So that's why they do what they do, right? Because they believe that stuff, right? But the Prophet said something, he had the last word. And he said there's no superiority of the Arab over the non-Arab or the white over the black, except through taqwa. He said that. And that is etched in stone until Yom Qiyamah. So it doesn't make a difference which imam or what sheikh, or it don't make a difference. Anything after that don't make a difference. The Prophet said something, he spoke, and that's the end of the story.
Exactly.
Sister Tika, what you got for us?
Just to answer the question about why that flag is the way it is, and drawing a conclusion from the map that you had put up, I think it's probably because a lot of those lands that they have across there are the more nutrient rich lands, or more mineral rich lands. It could be reaching, but the oil sands in the west down to the fertile lands of the east of Florida, so on and so forth. I mean, they can have Florida. There's too many hurricanes there, anyways. But just drawing that conclusion from what I noticed on that. But I was just, man, that whole entire conversation about democracy and whether or not it's kufr or not, that was just ridiculous. I was just trying to, interrupt that. That's the only reason why I really came on. That was just a whole hot mess. But anyways, like, and as far as Muslims aligning themselves, immigrant Muslims aligning themselves with this agenda, it's so weird because yes, technically on paper they classify you as white, but they don't really see you as white. And it's funny because once they get rid of everybody else, who do you think they're going to come after next? Remember 9/11? Remember what happened then? It was all brown people that were getting discriminated against. It wasn't just black people anymore. That at that time, you guys were they were feeling the heat too. And who were they running to? They were running to the black people to come and help to save them. But it's so ridiculous. And it's like they don't learn from their own mistakes, and you can see it about to happen all over again. So that's all I got.
But this time, right, what I'm saying and what I'm proposing is that black folk, we are the ones who have to move smarter, because we are a naive people, man. We are a people that just have, good hearts for no reason, bro. Like straight up, For the past 4 centuries, every decision regarding us, whether it's financial, education, whatever it is, it's all been decided by non-black people. All of it. Okay.
Right.
And as soon as these Europeans decided that they were the superior race, right? They have collaborated with other races to tell other races that you're not the superiors, but you are superior to us black folk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And other people group were happy to participate in that. So when South Asians were classified as white, they were all too happy to accept that.
Right.
Wait, they were classified that in Canada?
Across North America, period.
Canada, I don't know what the system is out here, right? Because they don't have the same system in the states because Canada is sparsely populated, right? So Canada basically seeks immigration, right? They seek out immigrants, but at the same time, you see, a lot of people think that this alt-right stuff came from America and kind of spread from America to the world, and that's not the case. It originated in Canada. The whole alt-right phenomenon originated in Canada, and it didn't start in 2016 with what's his face, or 2000. What's that guy's name, man? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Right, he's the one who
Jordan Peterson.
Not Jordan Peterson. No, he's not even the originator. Huh? No, not Gavin. No. He's a Canadian guy. He is a Canadian guy. Is it Richard Spencer? Richard Spencer. No, not Richard. No, he's not American.
Yeah, Richard Spencer.
The Proud Boys guy?
No, it's not Proud Boys. Is it Richard? No, I can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue. No, it's not Proud Boy. The Proud Boy, the founder of the Proud Boys is Canadian. But the one who coined the moniker alt-right and far right, he's Canadian too, right? But
that's Richard Spencer.
Richard Spencer? Is that the guy?
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know he was Canadian though. I thought he was American.
Yeah, he's Canadian, right? So, but his tutelage, right, was from Canadian. Whatchamacallit? Was it Canadian right-wing politicians? Okay, and this really started in the 80s with the Reform Party. That's really the birth of it, right? With the Reform Party in Canada was the first party to try to, sanitize white supremacy in politics. They were the first party to do that. And since then, we have gotten Stephen Harper, right? We have gotten all kinds of these Proud Boys and whatnot, Richard Spencer. Okay, we've got all these people, right? And they are exporting the stuff into the States because the States, you have a large white supremacist outlet, right? But in Canada, the system itself, the sanitizing the system and those ideas are coming from Canada. You get me? It makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I never heard that before. I thought everything started in the U.S.
No, it didn't start
because it has more population.
Yeah, it's more population.
Dangerous
That's
people. Right.
Yeah, that's right. It has more population, right? But you see, what with the states has spent the last 3 decades or so trying to clean up their image internationally. You get me? Where Canada's never had to do that.
Oh, the Canadian nice thing? That propaganda?
Yeah. Everybody loves Canada because Canadians are so nice.
Canada's never had to do that. Even if you look at Jordan Peterson, where is he from?
Canada.
If you look at Elon Musk, where is he from?
South Africa.
He's South African, but where's his parents from? But he's got one Canadian parent, right? Wasn't he raising?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Right. So all this stuff, right, it's coming out of Canada into the States, right? And if you look at whatchamacallit, these big that are now right-wing outlets like InfoWars. Well, InfoWars never started as a right-wing outlet. Right? InfoWars was more of a conspiracy type outlet.
Yeah, it was a conspiracy theorist.
Like Alex Jones and stuff. He was more of a conspiracy type guy, right? And then he pivoted right. Why? Because of all these things coming out of the alt-right and stuff like that, things of this nature, right? So
are
now
Canadians more politically naive than the Americans?
Canadians in general, right, are definitely more politically naive in general, as a general rule. Much more politically naive than Americans, right? However, there is an element of these Canadians who are incredibly savvy, like Stephen Harper. That dude, I give him his props. This dude is a devil of epic proportions. Okay, this dude is like on some next level stuff.
Who would he be analogous to in the U.S.? Do you think?
Who? Stephen Harper?
Stephen Harper. Yeah. Casually heard of him.
Stephen Harper. I mean, man, I don't know who to describe.
Like
the guy,
like Bill Crystal type person.
No. The guy has the wickedness. The wickedness. Okay, he's got the wickedness of a George Bush, but the brains of a Bill Clinton. Put it that way.
Jeez.
Savvy.
That's horrible.
Right? He's savvy.
And the smoothness of a Barack Obama. Like, I don't know how he does it like this.
Well, even so, he's smooth to a certain segment of Canadians, right? He's very smooth to the whites because he himself is a white supremacist, right? And when the Reform Party was essentially forming in the 80s and whatnot, they were too white supremacists for him, so he left and he joined who? The PCs, right? The progressive conservatives, right? Even he's a white supremacist, but he said, y'all are doing it wrong. I'm going to join this party, right? And now he's one of the figureheads of the alt-right internationally, Stephen Harper, Canadian, right? And if you think about all the figureheads of the alt-right, there are more recognizable Canadians than Americans. Right? Who do you recognize from the American side? From the alt-right.
Maybe Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, maybe. Yeah, that's it. Alex Jones and Donald Trump, I think.
Jeez. Yeah, I didn't even know these people are Canadian. They just fit. They don't even have Canadian accents. Well, actually, Canadians don't really have that much of an accent. So
yeah. Right.
I just wanted to mention something to what you said though. Even though Black people are generally, we're ignorant. But I've also noticed that there's been like a paradigm shift with that too, because there has been a lot more speak of Black people becoming more aware and not giving away their votes anymore to just
that is recent. That is recent.
That really recent. So I think that is sparking a lot of fear too, because people are becoming a little bit more aware, and they're not gonna go with just anything anymore. Even though we still have like a long way to go. I don't think it's going to. It's the shift is definitely happening. So,
well, there's a global awakening amongst Africans and amongst Black people in general.
In general, yeah.
In general, right? And
look at what's happening with the African nations right now.
Muslims in general, particularly immigrant Muslims, are so woefully behind the ball, it is not even funny. Muslims are just being played left, right, and center. No pun intended, but
right.
It's funny that you mentioned that earlier, where you said that there was no Black Muslims in those protests. Doesn't that one area have a lot of Somalis? But I didn't see a single one of them in any of those videos. Somalis and Ethiopians and other Africans.
I mean, there were Somalis in the one in Canada, I believe, right? Because again, like Somalis, if you think about Somalis, Somalis are probably, if you look at all the tether classes in history, Somalis are the most useful for white supremacy. Absolutely the most useful. right? In terms of all tether classes, and they get socially engineered very easily. Very, 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 very easily. No matter where they go, it doesn't make a difference. Look, if they are in a Western country, they are going to be socially engineered, right? So, if you look, for example, in Canada, the situation with Somalis in Canada, where they go, mostly in Toronto and Ottawa. Check the Toronto's Most Wanted at any day of the year, and check the Ottawa's Most Wanted any day, and check Canada's Most Wanted any day of the year. In Canada's Most Wanted, you're going to see a large portion of Muslims, right? Good percentage. And the majority of those Muslims will be Somalian. And Somalians make up such a tiny segment of society, but they're always represented well in the most wanted category for all kinds of crazy crimes, through murder, prostitution, you name it, right? Why is this happening to Somalians? Because, as I said, when you're talking about a white supremacist society, because they have this divide and conquer system, as we mentioned, we just read from the book from Michael Abraham, and how white folks classify these groups, okay? And they classify these groups specifically to make sure that the children of slavery can never, bump up beyond these certain segments of society. So these other groups are very happy to take part in this, right? So Somali's role, they represent two groups, right? In the white supremacist world, they represent Black folk and Muslims. Yet they still think like cultural Somalians. You get it?
A lot of them don't even recognize the fact that they're Black. Like, they don't.
Exactly. That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Black. Yeah.
They are living in a white supremacist world, operating as a tribe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What? Right? So some of them are now just figuring out, regardless of what you were doing in Somalia, right? Regardless of what's happening there, the reason why it's happening is because the white supremacists. So you need to operate as Black. Some of them are just figuring that out, right? But some of them are still, like a large portion of them are still, because Somalis are like that Eastern African Semitic type. They have their own language. They have like a very rich culture in East Africa. You know what I mean? They're clinging on to that, not realizing that the reason why you're having so much issues in your country is because of the white supremacists that sees you like you're a Black, and you are still out here saying, "Oh, I'm not Black, I'm Somali." like the white supremacist is going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. You're Somali. You're not Black." Like, what?
Yeah. No, they can't distinguish. They can't tell a Nigerian from an Ethiopian.
Yeah, right. So now, because they're operating like this still, it is very easy to manipulate them in a Western construct.
But is that a Canada specific thing? Because they have a huge population in Minnesota.
It's the same situation. It's the same situation in the States. It's the same situation
everywhere.
I think the documentary I saw was either from Switzerland or Sweden, one of these countries in Europe, right? They were talking about, I saw this document with my own eyes, okay? They were talking about the rise in gangsterism, and I think it was Sweden, okay? And I didn't know what I was going to see, okay? But why, okay? All Somalians. All Somalians. No, I can't say all Somalians. It's
Somalis and Arabs in Sweden.
Yeah, and Arabs. Thank you. Mostly Somalians and some Arabs. Okay, right? Why? Because they are playing the role of global buffer class. I'm global tether. Sorry, they are the global tether, and the global both. They're both the global buffer class and the global tether because they're black.
What's the difference between buffer and tether?
A buffer class.
That's like the Indians, right?
Yeah, these are the people that the white supremacist societies they bring to their countries to act as a buffer between the black folk in their country, right, and capital gains, right, to raise their wealth up, right. So when these buffer classes come, these are the ones that you will see, for example. They will open up stores in the black community. They will get loans from the white banks to open up stores in the black community, right? So that black people cannot have their own people owning stores in their community. The banks will not give loans to black folks to open up anything in their communities, right? So they, for example, they don't want the Chinese to live in white, to open up shop in white neighborhoods, right? They can't do that. So where do they send them? They send them to the black neighborhoods. Same thing with the Yemenis. Same thing with the South Asians, right? They send them to the black neighborhoods so they can get rich and be a buffer between themselves and black society. Okay, that's the buffer class. Okay, a tether, right? A tether is a black person from Africa. Okay,
those are going to be your Nigerians.
A tether is a black person from Africa that the white supremacist society invites over to Western societies in order to build them up so that they can turn around and say, why can't you black people do it? Because we did it. To point the finger in the face of the children of slavery like this. You understand?
Right.
So these black folks will from Africa will get opportunities that the children of slaves will never get. Right? So they are a tether between the white supremacists, right, and larger black groups to say, look, we are doing stuff for black people, but really what they are doing, they're doing stuff for the black immigrant and not for the black children of slavery. You got me? So that's the main difference, right? So buffer classes are like all these other immigrant types. All of them, right? They come and they get rich off of black people. Every group comes and gets rich off. It don't make a difference. Okay. Jews get rich off of black people. Chinese get rich off of black people. Right? Yemenis get rich off of black people. Pakistanis, everybody does. Okay.
So what would the Africans who, I've heard this sentiment a lot. We're just here to make money. We're not getting involved in anything. And then we're going to send the money back and leave. What would they be considered kind of? That kind of sentiment, tethers, right? Even though they never leave.
These are tethers.
Yeah, these are tethers, right? The tethers are like specifically like mostly black people from Africa, right? Specifically that, right? All right. So you'll find, for example, the richest black people in the West are Nigerians, right? They are the richest, right? They make a lot of money in the West, right? They have solid family structures and whatnot. But they get told, and they will tell you this, they get told all the way in Africa, right, not to thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
And they will tell you they get told this. You get me? So, and this is like the Somalians. They're both a buffer class, okay, because they're Muslim, and they are tethered because they are black. And that makes them even better for this role because they don't even consider themselves black. They're still living in a tribal world, and they have entire blogs and websites and even YouTube channels about how they're not black and stuff. We're Somali, we're not black. They're out there telling the world they're not black, but they're suffering from black problems everywhere they go. Everywhere, you name it, they're suffering from it. Right. So instead of getting advice from those who have been here before them, right? If you tell them, look, this is what's happening, they get very, very, very defensive, right? Like what happened with Shadid Muhammad and Saeed Raga. You remember that? Remember that thing that happened?
I remember that.
Yeah, between Shadi and Said Raga. When Said Raga said that thing about all black Americans, they're like single mothers and they
Oh
don't have
yes, yeah. He had
remember that
huge backlash. Yeah, even
huge
from the
back.
Somali community. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do I think Said Raga's racist? No. Did he say something dumb? Yeah, he certainly did. Right. But Shadi Muhammad brought out some very pertinent points. Very, very pertinent points. He brought up that why are you looking at us when your community, is out here and they suffering from prostitution, gangster? He just said it. That was the cardinal sin. So he got massive black backlash for saying something that was factually true. It's just facts. You get me? And so much so that even Somalians are making documentaries about this stuff. Even in Minnesota, they're making documentaries. You can go right now on YouTube. There's a documentary about Somalia and Somali drug use with all these Somali sisters.
Yep.
They'll tell you.
Yep.
They'll tell you, man. There's there's YouTube channels about Toronto, the gangsters in Toronto, all Somalians. So why are you guys getting angry? Why are you guys getting angry? You get me? These are facts. So what you should be doing is cleaning up your own. This is what Shadi Muhammad was saying. He's saying y'all should be clean up, and that is a fact. Yeah, that is a fact. The descendants of slaves have been here before you. We know the game very well. I'll tell you a story, okay? I'm not going to name the cities, right? But there's a specific city out here in Canada, right? Where some of the brothers, they went to the prisons to make dawah, okay? Right? And they're in the prisons, these black brothers, they're in the prisons making dawah, whatnot. They're giving the khubbas and whatnot. And in this prison, the majority of the prisoners are Somalian. Okay, but they're just making dawah, giving khutbahs and whatnot, right? This is what they're doing. Okay, word gets out to the mothers of these Somali prisoners that these non-Somalis are giving khutbahs in the prison to their Somali sons who are in prison. And you know what these mothers did? They came together as a group to the prison. And they said, we want a Somali imam.
Wow, there's lack of priorities right there.
And that's why I'm saying that's why they're useful. Because they do stuff like this. Right? So when you want to make lots of jobs for, private prisons, which is coming to Ontario, what are you going to do? You're going to invite a whole bunch of people who fit the class of buffer and tether, who don't know they black, but are inundated to the worst parts of black culture to fill up private prisons.
You get it? Who's going into those prisons too, man? I'm sorry, but these Somali kids are ruthless. There was just a shooting out here, 4 days ago.
Right, but why I'm saying this, right? Because I know Somalis watch this too, is that the game that they play with us, they've been doing this to us for 400 years. And now they doing it to you. And instead of taking advice from those who already been through it, you got your moms out here going to prisons talking about we want a Somali imam. And that was a problem to begin with. That was the Somali imam was the problem to begin with. Because there's a massive gap between the Somali imam and what's going on in the streets. It's like from here to Mars. Huge gap.
Right. They can't relate.
They cannot relate. There's no
Their
relatability.
parents and their kids, they can't relate.
There's nothing, no relatability.
Right. I know that people always want to make fatwas about how the Nation of Islam, they're not Muslims, blah blah blah. But you know, who are the people in the communities? You know, talking to people on the streets. It's only the Nation of Islam.
Yes.
No Orthodox Muslims.
Yeah.
None of these imams with their big stomachs are talking to anybody. A lot of them can barely speak English. I'm just keeping it stacked.
And that's shameful. It's really, really, really shameful, right? Because we should be working together as a single body to help solve our problems, but we don't. And it's very, very clear, you know? And of course, Black folk, we're the only folk that have a history of helping all people without asking for anything in return, right? It's only us. We're the only people like that, right? And this ride that people have been taking off of Black folk, right? That gravy train needs to end. It needs to end.
True.
Right? We need to do what Allah has commanded us to do and save ourselves and our families from the fire. When people are ready and willing to interact with you as brothers, and okay. I'm saying this because the Somali community, they are actually our brothers. That's why I'm saying that. They are our brothers, right? And nobody from the Somalian, from as far as I know, I've never heard it with my own ears, but nobody from the Somalian community is telling them the truth. Nobody's doing it. And when they get told the truth, they get outrageously defensive. And when you are defending this stuff, will it go away?
No.
Of course not. No, not at all. So how much do you think is there of awakening is happening just in the general, just Africans global? Because I know I have some friends in Brazil, they're saying a lot of the women now are growing their African hair and not using, bleaching. They're being more proud of, their Africanness. And I see that a lot, even in some African countries, that a lot of that stuff is coming back.
Well,
do you think it's an awakening?
It's definitely happening. You know what I mean? And it's very clear that it's happening. What's happening so much that, do you know what's happening in Kenya right now as we speak?
The war?
What's going on in Kenya?
No, that's it. Sudan, sorry.
The taxes?
No. The Kenyan president, a couple of days ago.
Oh, the land.
He issued a visa-less entry for anybody of African descent trying to do business in Kenya.
Oh, okay. I was just in Kenya, but I didn't hear about that.
People. Okay? That includes Western Black people.
Oh.
In Ghana and Gambia, they're giving away free land for descendants of slavery.
There's another place that is too. Togo, but that's not it.
There's a global Black awakening happening right now as we speak, right? So in Africa right now,
if you're Black and you want to leave, there's lots of
I believe there are, if I'm not mistaken, 22 or 23 different African countries who are willing to sign on to the BRICS nations. Okay? And use their currency. There is a Black African Union happening right now. Where? And the president of Kenya, he said this, it makes no sense that all these countries, every single time some other country comes, the president of Russia, the president of China, the president of India, that all the countries of Africa come to meet this one person. This is counterproductive and nonsensical, and it makes us look weak. But rather, what makes more sense, we'll send them maybe 4 or 5 representatives, 6 or 7 representatives, and that should be enough to represent all of us. He said that.
I think that was the president of Ghana, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Mali,
Yeah.
Mali, and some other countries. Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting them? Basically, a
Uganda?
lot. Huh?
Uganda?
Not Uganda. No. These French colony countries, right? I know Mali is one of them for sure, right? Right. But several of them have kicked out their French colonizers. They kicked them out the countries, right? And they said that we're now no longer using the franc to trade. We're no longer doing that.
Final.
You know what I mean? So here we have like, what's going on in Africa right now. We have a situation where you have slavery going on in Libya, okay? Slavery like, against black people, specifically against black people. Islam is not saving them, okay? You have in Tunisia, where they're kicking out black Africans out of an African country, talking about, Arab and Muslim identity and stuff, right? When these sub-Saharan African countries unite, who do you think is coming to save these North African Arab countries? The Arabs won't do it.
The whites, yeah.
The Europeans definitely won't do it. The North African Arab countries have nothing to offer. Everyone except for Libya. Libya's the only one that has something to offer, right?
Morocco's got saffron, but they that's it.
Yeah, but Morocco's a little bit of a different situation because Morocco is like largely multicultural, right? And they have racism, but not on the level of these other North African, not even close, right?
Yeah.
They're mostly accepting in Morocco. Morocco's issue is mostly with the West Sahara, the West. You guys know about the West Sahara?
Yeah.
Right. So that country, the West Sahara, they're having
Morocco controls basically.
Yeah, they're having some big political issues between them and there. Right. So, but with these other countries like Algeria and Tunisia, and they're in big trouble right now because when Muammar Gaddafi was alive, right? Muammar Gaddafi he tried to unite all the African countries, right? And he tried to make an Afro dollar, right? A dinar backed by gold, right? And he said we're not going to trade in the USD anymore. This is why he was assassinated, right? Right. 20 years later, that seems to be the trend that Africa is heading to. But now, what's the difference is the sub-Saharan African countries seem to be more inclined to do this. And if I had to guess, I had to guess the reason why these North African countries are acting the way that they are is because, of course, Muammar Gaddafi is no longer here. And if you look at Tunisia, if you look at Algeria, which country is running these two countries?
France.
And they are repeating the exact same talking points of France in Africa against Africans. No different.
And then being discriminated again in France.
Exactly.
Part.
Well, black African countries are singing a different tune than France. The sub-Saharan African countries are saying, we don't want y'all here no more. You get it? So these North African Arabs have chosen their colonizer over the colonized. And this seems to be the trend internationally, where you have the Arabs and the South Asians, they are choosing the colonizer over the oppressed people, right? So that's why we have. Go ahead.
Because there's money in it for them, right? I mean, it's not like there's not black people in
There's
Algeria. It's not like there's not black people in Libya or
money
anything else.
selling out. That's
Right.
why it's called selling out, right? The reason why it's called selling out is because it's lucrative. If it wasn't lucrative, it wouldn't be called selling out.
But for India, this is not new, right? Because my Indian friend, he's tried to. You remember that attack on the White House? They were originally saying it was a white supremacist. You guys heard about that?
Yeah.
And then it turned out the guy was like, an Indian, and he had like a Nazi flag in the back of the U-Haul.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was bizarre, so I asked one of my new friends to kind of explain it, and he's like, "It's kind of bizarre to explain, but Nazism and Nazi Germany are like venerated in India still. They never had like a bad idea of it. There's even a popular store apparently that's called Hitler there."
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of Indians who believe that they are Aryans, like the same as the Germans. And it's
as a matter
really
of
makes
fact,
sense. Yeah.
Iran, the name Iran, the country, it comes from Aryan. It comes from Aryan. Look it up. Don't make me have to.
Yeah.
Don't make me have to put my Google magic on. Iran itself comes from Aryan, and Hitler had a great relationship with the Shah, whoever it was at that time, during World War II. They were pals. They were friends. So much so, there is a Nazi contingent in Iran that went all the way up even into the 50s after World War II. Then they were called Nazis in Iran.
Yeah, this is just all bizarre. Same thing with Afghanistan too. There's a lot of the Pashtuns who fight over being, hey, we're the original Aryans before the Germans. Yeah.
It's some crazy stuff, bro. But this is what that white supremacy stuff does, man. You know what I mean? Once you start, participating in white supremacy, you're participating in the system of Iblis himself, of Lucifer himself, right? So really, your nature or your natural disposition should be to resist it as much as you can, not help it, not aid it, not seeking allyship with it.
Exactly.
And that is some crazy stuff, man.
And
like,
you know what? Another bizarre one.
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam, South Vietnam. Have you ever seen a South Vietnamese flag being flown at some of these alt-right rallies and things like that?
Nope.
There's a big expose by Vice on that. The January 6th when they were storming the Capitol. I mean the Capitol building. There was a lot of South Vietnamese flags. So this was the sellout contingents in Vietnam that the U.S. was propping up, that they shipped over to the United States, and they have a huge allyship with the right wing right now. So some of the right wingers even fly their flag.
Wow, you see?
Yeah.
Because
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So the right wingers, they cannot gain.
But they never fly a Haitian flag. You never see that at a right wing protest.
No, never. Because this is a new game now. It's like a culture war. You get me? They know that they cannot gain enough numbers through outright white supremacy. So they have to do it through some other means, right? And the means that they are able to recruit other people to join their cause is the LGBTQ. Because that's like a no-brainer. It's like so easy. It's very easy to get people to oppose this thing because this is an evil idea. It's an evil ideology. And no amount of inclusion will make it good, right? So people naturally want to resist this LGBTQ stuff, right? And once the LGBTQ is like the bait, right, for the rape rumors, right? Once they get you in like that, then they start introducing all this other stuff, because they really what it is truly about white supremacy. The goal at the end of the day is about white supremacy. Even if you look at the liberal agenda itself is about white supremacy, but it's just two completely different ways of how to achieve it.
Right, the iron glove in the velvet sleeve. That's the liberal.
Yeah. You get me? So, but anyways, I'll let you guys get the last comments and then we'll call it a night, inshallah.
Yeah, no, it was good talking to you, brother. I appreciate it.
And
wassalamu
alaikum.
All right. I don't really got anything to say. Yeah, good talk. That's it.
All right, and I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Inshallah, like, subscribe, share. As you know, we are no longer being monetized by YouTube, so y'all are the marketing team. Jazakumullah khair. I'd like to thank everybody who joined me, including Reactionary. You know, I had to cut him off because it's just being annoying as usual. But you know, but Jazakumullah khair. May Allah reward and bless you all. Subhanaka alhamdulillah. Shahada anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.